question. Why is it that only the white countries are the ones forced into dealing with these kinds of people? The ones forced into embracing cultures that cannot or will not assimilate? And I say this as both a Hispanic and white male, because one does not have to be white to understand that white people, for no other reason other than being born Caucasian, are seen as a people who must be diluted and mixed until the country of the places where they live start to look browner. But why is that? Why are whites being singled out? Let's take a trip to Japan. In the past 5 years, the proportion of applicants granted refugee status in Japan has dropped below 1%. Well, that's racist. How dare they refuse hundreds of thousands of people, many of whom belong to a culture which is mired in dangerous religious nonsense and superstition? How dare they take care of their own people? But what's even more telling is how the rest of the world, and as they should, are completely okay with this. No one is calling the Japanese people racist for not letting in refugees. And that's a very good thing. After all, Japan already has their fair share of concerns. Some of the most prominent are its sinking economy, aging society, sinking birth rate, radiation, and an unpopular and almost powerless government. So this makes sense. Immigration and government officials in Japan are saying to themselves that it's in their best interest to put their focus on their own people, to focus on improving their own economy so they can flourish, and my hat is off to them. Japan has become an example of a people that are united, a people that are not afraid of being called racist. But no one actually thinks the Japanese are racist for doing this anyways because they're not white. If you're white and you're against mass migration, you are a racist. I'm speaking of Europe and America in this context, where all the best things in the world are, where the greatest ways of life exist. And because, if we're talking about America, it's just a generally cool, chill place to live. And because of this, we are high on the radar of these refugees. And I don't blame them. I would want to come here too. And I'll expand on that later. First, let's just acknowledge a profound, evolving, and very unfortunate truth. And that is that if too many white people are gathered in one place, that is now seen as a bad thing. And the Hollywood media and establishment figures on the left side seem to be talking about nothing else. It should not be okay to denigrate people on the basis of their skin color. Period. If someone is white, they did not choose to be white. If someone is black, you get it. Race needs to stop being the number one defining factor of which we view the behavior of people by. Do you know what should be the defining factor to gauge the behavior of someone else? Their behavior. If you're kind to me, I will be kind to you. It's as simple as that. If you're a Jew and you like Halo, cool, let's play Halo. I could give two shits about your Jewishness, unless you're really high up in Hollywood media. That makes you a creepy Jew. And, to the shock of many of you, if you're a Muslim and you play guitar, cool, let's jam. I could give two shits about your Muslimness, unless, of course, you truly believe emphatically that Muhammad is the wisest account of morality, that Sharia is the blueprint for a flourishing society, blasphemy laws are useful, and you can kind of understand why Charlie Hebdo happened. If you, like many of you, believe in those ideas, you can go fuck yourself. So obviously there are distinctions to be made, but when talking about nations and how tribalistic and immature humans can be, it is wise, given the nature of the human condition, to not force cultures onto each other, especially by the millions. People do not know how to handle that. We freak out, especially when evidence points to the fact that many of the people who are migrating into your peaceful country want to kill you. The solution all comes down to a blend between compassion and wisdom. If a government has too much compassion but not enough wisdom, you end up like Germany in the present day. I happen to disagree with the public intellectuals and YouTube commentators who continually say that Germany and the German people can come back from this. They don't seem to understand that all of the numbers are against them, or at the very least, are completely underestimating the power of Islam. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope Germany gets its shit together, and they send Angela Merkel to a Vietnamese prison camp for her crimes against humanity. In my view, that would be a step in the right direction. But again, I'm not trying to be the bad guy. It's profoundly useful to engage our empathy and kindness toward our fellow humans. And in all aspects of life, we should strive to appreciate the value of all humans, no matter who they are. And many of the refugees who are struggling right now have my unlimited condolences. I am so grateful that I am not them. And if I was them, I would certainly want a country like America to let me in. But instead, I'm living in a hut, in a camp, surrounded by dirt and religious fanatics that are trying to kill me. I get it. That is a terrible situation. But the real importance, the true question, is what does our government do about it? That is the question. Well, all one has to do is look at Germany and Sweden, and we immediately realize that this question gets a lot easier but still complicated at the same time. The humanitarian solution cannot be something as simple or as delusional as Germany's open border policy, to just let hundreds of thousands of people in. But we also don't want to keep out the kinds of people that could be not only an addition, but a benefit to our society. Now, I've probably lost some of you there. Sometimes, not often, but every now and then I'll get a message or comment from someone criticizing me for even claiming that peaceful Muslims are an actual thing that exists. Well, of course they exist. Just because we have a problem in the world of Islamic theocracy and Islamists run amok doesn't mean we have to lie about the nature of the problem. Saying there are peaceful Muslims doesn't take the problem away, but I will admit that the distinction has now become a concession to irrelevancy. I merely clarified this because I want my position to be fully understood, because I think that the question of what to do with all these refugees is one of the most difficult questions of our time. To be able to, as a state, blend the mind states of compassion and wisdom into a consensus on what we should do has proven nearly impossible. I know for myself, I have no idea what the answer is. I do know what the answer is not. America does not need to take in hundreds of thousands of refugees, because within that group will be plenty of people who not only hate this country, but want to destroy it. People whose notions about reality come from the Sharia, and who want to impose that notion of reality on you and me. Fuck that. So this is where people move the conversation to vetting, which is so far from perfect it's almost a joke, considering many of the people have no paper trail or anything landing them as a terrorist or terrorist sympathizer. No matter how, quote, heavy our vetting is, dangerous people who want to blow up our societies will find a way in. We have to realize that when we see videos and pictures of Muslims rioting in Europe, that's not because of a feeling of racism or bigotry from Europeans, although that does exist in varying degrees, and it's not because Europeans weren't warm enough for their arrival. Have you seen how Germans embrace their new refugees? It's nothing but clapping and continual praise, things they won't even do for their own people. But no, the reason Muslims lash out and commit atrocities, and the reason so many Muslims in Europe don't speak out against it, is because of their religious deity.
Rumeysa and Chowdhury both live in East London, which is home to one of the largest Muslim populations in the UK. In one part of town, Rumeysa and his associates have set up so-called Sharia patrols to go out and discourage behavior that they deem un-Islamic.
Western men and women all deserve to have their fingers clipped off because they're infidels. We Westerners not only have premarital sex, but embrace it. We don't just drink alcohol. We love it. And we eat pork. Quran 8:12, quote, "I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve, Therefore, strike off their heads and strike off every fingertip of them. I don't know about you, but if my prophet told me some shit like that, why would I care at all what happens to you? Plus, they're jealous. Their religion makes them jealous because it suppresses every desire imaginable. And the West, sure as hell, needs less people like that. How America handles this issue will go down as one of the biggest decisions the United States has made in regards to foreign and domestic policy in a very long time. We need to get it right. And at the same time, take some cues from our friends in Japan. They seem to understand the fundamentals and lifestyles of many of the people who are requesting to enter into their country. And they certainly don't cave to any outside influence, which they really don't get. But even the small amount of criticism they do receive from parts of the world, from the people that are trying to force mass migration onto everyone, doesn't faze them at all. And in this regard, the Western immigration officials could learn a thing or two. But most of all, this growing culture in the government and outside the government, promoting this anti-white bullshit, chill with that too. Stop trying to locate the white societies only to make them a minority, or thinking that when they are the majority, it's a bad thing. Because when thousands of Muslims pile into a country, nothing bad ever happens. They are all peaceful, kind, and loving, and the religion is a work of art. Okay, keep telling yourself that. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go eat some bacon.